Welcome to notes number 0.5. We are going to be factoring again, but this time we're doing a little different type of factoring because we're going to be factoring a quadratic of the form ax squared plus bx plus c. So a quadratic is a trinomial, meaning it has three terms, and it's ax squared plus bx plus c. Your x squared term is always first, and the number all by itself is always last. So what we have here is not a trinomial. We're going to put this in the correct form, which is called standard form. So first comes the x squared term, so in this case it's the letter n, so 6n squared. Then we have 9n and negative 4n, so together those give us 5n. And then finally we have the negative 6 that does not have a variable, so that goes last. So all of our questions that we should be seeing right now should look like this. What we were doing in note 0.4, which I can scroll up and show you, we had 4 terms, so we made 2 groups and just factored out the GCF of each group. Well, the problem with these quadratics, these trinomials, is that there's only 3 terms. So the question is, how can we factor a quadratic by grouping if there are only 3 terms instead of 4 terms? So we have to split the b term using what we call the AC method. That means we multiply a by c. List the factors of the product from step 1. That's our second step. So once we multiply a by c, we're going to move on to step 2, which is to list the factors of the product, which we'll do together, but I just want to read through the steps first so we can fill our blanks in. Step 3 says circle the pair of factors that add up to the b term. And step 4 says split the b term up by replacing it with the circled pair from step 3. And finally, step 5 says factor by grouping as usual. So that was just a whole lot of words that might not make sense because you might not remember how to do this from Algebra 1. So let's actually do some examples. So multiply a by c. So first thing I need to do is first identify what a, b, and c are. So if we go up here where it shows ax squared plus bx plus c, a is whatever is with the x squared, so in example 1 that would be a 5. B is whatever is with the x, so in example 1 that would be a negative 19. And c is whatever is without a variable. It's all by itself, so in this case would be 12. So my step 1 is to multiply a by c. So my a is 5, my b is negative 19, and my c is 12. So off to the side, we're going to do that math. We're going to say, okay, a times c, so that's 5 times 12. And I'm going to highlight so we can keep everything color-coded. The a and the c, 5 times 12, that gives me 60. So that was step 1. Multiply a by c. Step 2 says list the factors of the product from step 1. So what we do is we actually draw a t-chart and we list our factors on the left. So factors are the numbers that multiply to something else. So if I'm listing the factors of my product from step 1, that just means whatever you got from step 1, so your a times c, which in this case is 60, I want to list all the numbers that multiply to 60. So this is whatever a times c equals on the left-hand side. So I know that 1 times 60 equals 60, 2 times 30, 3 times 20, 4 times 15, 5 times 12, and 6 times 10. Let's say that you didn't know all of those off the top of your head. The steps on how you can get the list of factors using your calculator are written right down here. So I'll show you that after we're done with this question. So that is step 2. Now step 3 says circle the pair of factors that add up to the b term. Well, my b term is the thing in the middle. In this case, it's negative 19. So I need to circle whatever adds to negative 19. It has to add to negative 19. Okay, so 1 plus 60, if I add up the 1 and the 60, I get 61. 61 and negative 19 are not the same number, so I can cross that out. I know that's wrong. So now I'll just keep going. 2 and 30 add up to give me 32. But 32 and negative 19 are not the same number. 3 plus 20 gives me 23. That is not negative 19, so I know that's wrong. 4 and 15. 4 plus 15 gives me positive 19. So that's good, but I need it to be negative 19. So we have to ask ourselves, how else can I get positive 60? If I have 4 and 15, those are both positive numbers, so when I multiply them, of course, I'll get a positive answer. But the other way to get a positive number by multiplying is to multiply two negative numbers. So if I just get rid of those because we don't need those anymore. If I make this negative 4 and negative 15, I still get positive 60. And if you're not sure, I mean, double check. If I do negative 4 times negative 15, I get positive 60. And now if I add up those two negative numbers, negative 4 plus negative 15, I get negative 19. So that is exactly what I needed it to equal. So that means I need to circle this pair. So remember, step 3 said circle the pair of factors that add up to the b term. So my pair of factors that added up to negative 19 was negative 4 and negative 15. So I'm going to circle that. Step 4 says split the b term up by replacing it with the circled pair from step 3. So my b term is this negative 19n. I need to split it up by replacing it with what I circled. So let's do this. We're going to split it up using some arrows. I'm going to bring down my first and my last term because those are not changing. So I'm just going to bring those down. But now, instead of this negative 19n, I'm going to split it up using these numbers. So I'm going to have negative 4n and negative 15n. We're allowed to do that because negative 4n minus 15n does combine to give you negative 19n. So I'm not breaking any laws of math. I'm just simply expanding that to make it two terms instead of one term. Now I have 4 terms. Now that I have 4 terms, I can do factoring by grouping like we were doing on notes 0.4. So these are my 2 groups now. So I just do it as I usually do. I find the GCF of my first group. So the biggest number that goes into 5 and 4 is just a 1. They actually don't share any other factor other than 1. But I can take the n out as well because I've got n squared and n to the imaginary first power. So the smaller of those two exponents would be a 1. So I'll divide these by 1n to the first power. 5 divided by 1 is 5. N squared divided by n to the first is n to the first. Negative 4 divided by 1 is negative 4. And n to the first divided by n to the first is, it cancels out. So that was group 1. Now I move to group 2. I have to bring down the sign in between my groups, meaning this GCF is going to be a negative number. The biggest number that goes into 15 and 12 is 3. So I can divide these both by negative 3. Again, it's negative because the first term of this group is negative. Negative 15n divided by negative 3 is positive 5n. And 12 divided by negative 3 is negative 4. So I have 5n minus 4 times 1n minus 3, which is just n minus 3. And we have our answer. So again, if you remember back to nodes 0.4, these have to match. And if they do, you know you've done it right, and you can factor it out and write your answer. That was a lot, I know. So we're going to do this many times. But I do want to show you the calculator trick, so how you can get the factors. So how I got all of these numbers right here. If you go to your calculator and follow these steps. So step 1 is to hit y equals. Step 2 is to type in whatever the number is and then divide it by x. So whatever you got for a times c, you'll do that number divided by x. Then hit second graph and start at x equals 1. Write down all of the xy pairs that are whole numbers. So I'll show you what that looks like. I'll go to my calculator, go to y equals. I'm trying to find the factors of 60 because a times c equals 60. So I'll do 60 divided by x. Make sure you're using the x button that is above the button that says apps. Do not accidentally use the multiplication button as your x. The x that you're using is the one that's x comma t and then the symbol and then n. That is the button that you will be pressing. It is right above the apps button. Once you type in your number divided by x, you're going to press second graph, and it's going to bring you to the table. We want to start at 1, and all of those whole numbers are the pairs that you wrote down. So we wrote down 1 and 60, 2 and 30, 3 and 20, 4 and 15, 5 and 12, 6 and 10, and then we stopped. We did not write down 7 and 8.57 blah, 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 because that's a decimal. We did not write down 8 and 7.5 because those are decimals. So all of those pairs that do not have decimals get written down. And you can see then we get back to 10 and 6, but we already have 6 and 10, so those are the same thing. So that's how you do it in your calculator. All right, let's try number 2. So the AC method. I've got 3 terms here. I need a 4th term. So we get that by splitting up the middle. I have to pick a specific set of numbers to split the middle with. So that's where the AC method comes in. So I have A, which is an imaginary 1, B is the negative 9, and C is this 8. So A times C equals, I don't know why I wrote A equals B up here. That's supposed to say A equals 1. A is 1, and B is 8. So 1 times 8. We get that. Here's the A. And here is the C. So 1 times 8 equals 8. So in my T-chart, I need to list the numbers that multiply to 8. So that's 1 times 8 and 2 times 4. Now I need to pick one of those pairs, and only one of them is going to work. To figure out which pair works, you have to make it so that it adds to your B term. So my B is negative 9. So I need to list the pair that adds to negative 9. Well, 2 plus 4 equals 6. That's not even close to negative 9. 1 and 8 adds to positive 9. So we run into the same problem we ran into last time. I need this to be a negative 9. So if I need to switch this, I need to switch both of these. So I have negative 1 and negative 8. That's how I get a negative 9. Because remember, if I multiply 2 negatives together, I still get a positive 8. So that's why you're allowed to do that. So I am going to circle this pair because I got my negative 9, which is what you need because it's got to be the B term. Now I'm going to take these numbers that I circled and I'm going to use these to split up my middle term. Because my middle term has an M, that means both of the numbers that I circled need to get an M as well. So it'll be negative 1M and negative 8M. So I can bring down my other 2 terms. And now I have 4 terms in my problem. These 2 terms came from splitting the middle, and I split the middle using the numbers from my T-chart. So I have 2 groups now. I need to start grouping them on top. I have 2 groups. The GCF of m squared minus 1m, well, they both share a 1. I guess we could write down a 1. And they both share m. So I can divide by 1m. M squared divided by m is just m. And negative 1m divided by 1m, negative 1 divided by 1 is negative 1. And the m's are the same, so those can just cancel out. Then I bring down my minus sign. The GCF of 8m and 8 is 8. They're the same number, so that makes that easy. So my GCF of group 2 is just a negative 8. Negative 8m divided by negative 8 is positive 1m, or just m. And a positive 8 divided by negative 8 is negative 1. So now these match, so I know I've done this correctly, so I can pull that out, m minus 1. And then I'm left with m minus 8, or 1m minus 8. And that's our answer. Okay, so we've got 8 problems here to work through. These are kind of complicated. You'll get used to it eventually, but for those of you that had me 2 years ago in Algebra 1, it's been a while since you've done this, so I understand if it takes us a little while to get back into the swing of it. So practice makes perfect. Here we go. I've got 3 terms. I need there to be 4 terms because that's the only way I can factor by grouping. So we have to do the AC method. So I have A times C. My A is the 3, and my C is the negative 5. So this is 3 times negative 5. 3 times negative 5 equals negative 15. So in my T-chart, I need the numbers that multiply to negative 15, and they have to add to negative 2. Because we always need to list the pairs and find the pair that adds to your middle term. So for negative 15, we can go to our calculators and type in y equals negative 15 divided by x. And if I go second graph, starting at x equals 1, we can write down all of our whole numbers. So I have 1 and negative 15. Then I have 3 and negative 5. Then I have 5 and negative 3. So 3 and negative 5, 5 and negative 3, those are different because the numbers that are negative are switching. So that's different, and we need to put that on our list as well. And then, let's see, these are all decimals, again, until I get to 15 and negative 1. 15 and negative 1. So those are our 4 options. Now I need to add these up to see which of them give me negative 2. So if I add 1 and negative 15, go back to my calculator, 1 plus negative 15, that's negative 14. That does not equal negative 2. 3 plus negative 5 really just means 3 minus 5, which 3 minus 5 does equal negative 2. So there we go. We got it already. 3 and negative 5 is the winner. So I'm going to use that 3 and negative 5 to split my middle. Since it's the letter is P, it will be 3P minus 5P. So I'm using my numbers from the T-chart that I circled to split my middle term up. I bring down my other term, so 3p squared plus, and then I bring down that minus 5. And now I have 2 groups. GCF of my first group is 3p. And when I divide by 3p, I am left with p plus 1. Bring down that negative. The GCF of my second group is negative 5. When I divide by negative 5, I am left with a positive p plus 1 again, giving me p plus 1 times 3p minus 5. Okay, number 4. Doing the AC method, because I only have 3 terms, I need there to be 4 terms. So a times c, that's 2 times negative 9, which is negative 18. So I need to list the numbers that multiply to negative 18, and I need to find the pair that adds up to positive 3. And if you're not remembering where those are coming from, the left side of your t-chart is always a times c, and the right side is always whatever b is. So since my b is a 3, that's why I know I need it to add up to positive 3. So the factors of negative 18, well, it's 1 and negative 18, 2 and negative 9, 3 and negative 6, 6 and negative 3, 9 and negative 2, 18 and negative 1. If you're not sure about those, again, you can go to your calculator, go to y equals, and type it in divided by x. So negative 18 divided by x, second graph, and that gives you your list. So you write down all of your numbers that are not decimals. All right, so the pair that adds to 3, well, 1 and negative 18 gives me negative 17 when I add those up. 2 minus 9, that's negative 7. So that's not it. 3 minus 6, 3 plus negative 6, that's negative 3. So I'm close, but I'm off by a negative. So that's not it. But then we get to 6 and negative 3. 6 minus 3 is 3. So that is our winner. So that's what I'm going to circle. And whenever you find the pair to circle, that is what you split the middle term using. So instead of this 3n, instead of this, I'm going to use these. So it's going to be a 6n minus 3n. So I'm splitting it up, and then I'm bringing down the other 2 terms. So I'm bringing down that minus 9 and the 2n squared. And that 6 is a positive, so I'll just put a plus sign. Now I've got 4 terms. Now I can factor by grouping. The GCF of my first group is 2n. When I divide by 2n, I'm left with n plus 3. The GCF of my middle group, or my second group, is negative 3. I know it's negative because the sign, the first term in this group is negative, so I'll divide by negative 3. And I am left with positive n and a positive 3. Since these match, I can pull it out, so it's n plus 3. And then it's 2n minus 3. And that's our answer. All right, number 5. I'm going to teach you a shortcut. Now this shortcut can only be used when x squared has a 1 attached to it, or an imaginary 1. Because this x squared doesn't have anything there, it's the imaginary 1, we can do the shortcut. And we love a good shortcut because I'm going to set this up for the answer. I know my letter is x, so I'll have an x in each of these. And to figure out the rest of the answer, I just need to do my t-chart. So a times c, well, my a is that imaginary 1, and my c is this is the 63. 1 times 63 equals 63. So I need to figure out what multiplies to 63 that adds to the b term, which is negative 16. So I need to go find the factors of 63. So I'll go to my calculator, go to y equals, and type in 63 divided by x. Go to my graph, and let's start writing these down. So I've got 1 and 63, 3 and 21, 1 and 63, 3 and 21, 7 and 9, and then 9 and 7, which is the same thing as 7 and 9, so I'm done. Once you get to your first repeat, that means you're done. 1 plus 63 is 64, that's not it. 3 plus 21, that's 24, so that's not it. 7 plus 9 is 16, but I need negative 16. So if I need to negate this, I need to switch these as well. So if I'm switching this, I need to switch both of these. So that will be negative 7 and negative 9 in order to give me the negative 16. Well, the nice thing about the shortcut is you don't have to do any of these steps. Because this is a 1, you get to skip all of these steps completely. And your number from the t-chart goes straight into the parentheses. So the answer to this is x minus 7 and x minus 9. That's it. That's your answer. You could still do it the long way if you wanted to, but because we have this shortcut, you can save yourself a lot of time. Because the answer is going to be the same if you do it the long way or if you use the shortcut. Again, the shortcut is you just take your numbers from the t-chart and that is what goes in your parentheses. This only works if this is a 1. You can only do this shortcut if it is a 1. If your x squared has a coefficient of a 1 or if it's just an imaginary 1. So for these other 5 problems here, we will not be able to use that shortcut, but maybe you'll be able to use that shortcut on a different assignment or in the future. Number 6, A times C. Well, A is 2 and C is 21. My B term that I'll need it to add up to is 17. So A times C equals 2 times 21, which equals 42. So in my t-chart, I need the numbers that multiply to 42. And then I need to figure out which of those numbers add up to 17, because that is what my B term is. It has to add to whatever the B term is, because that's the thing we're splitting up, because that's how we get our 4 terms, so we can do grouping. So I'm going to go 42 divided by x in my calculator to find the factors of 42. So 42 divided by x, second graph. I've got 1 and 42, 2 and 21, 3 and 14. So 1 and 42, 2 and 21, 3 and 14. And might be more, but, well, there are more. We're just going to stop there because I already see the answer, because 3 plus 14 is 17. 3 plus 14 is 17, so that is the correct pair. So that's what I'm going to use to split up my middle term. So 17b is going to get split up using the 3b and the 14b. Then I'm going to bring down the other 2 terms. So bring down the plus 21, bring down the 2b squared. And my 3 from my table is a positive, so I'm going to put a plus sign in front of it. And there you have your 2 groups, so now I can factor by grouping. The GCF of my first group, the biggest number that goes into 2 and 3 is just a 1. So you could use it, or you could just write the variable, which is b. So 1b or just b. 2b squared divided by 1b is just 2b. And 3b divided by 1b is just 3. The b's cancel. Plus 14 divided by 21. If I divide these, they're both divisible by 7. So I can divide these by 7. No variable though, because the 21 doesn't have a variable, so it's just a 7. 14b divided by 7 is 2b, and 21 divided by 7 is 3. And hey, look, they match. So I know I've done this correctly, so my final answer is 2b plus 3 times b plus 7. And that's it. Number 7, 3 times 4, because I need to do a times c so that I can split this middle. So my a is 3, my b is 4. 3 times 4 is 12. So in my t-chart, I need the numbers that multiply to 12. and add up to negative 8. Again, they're adding to whatever you're trying to split, which is the middle term. So my factors of 12, I know 1 times 12, 2 times 6, and 3 times 4. 1 plus 12 equals 13. 3 plus 4 equals 7, so neither of those are correct. But 2 plus 6 equals 8. That's almost correct. I just need it to be negative 8. So since I need to switch this, I need to switch these as well. Negative 2 and negative 6 add to negative 8. And negative 2 times negative 6, a negative times a negative, still gives me this positive 12. So we're okay with that. So I'm going to take that negative 2 and that negative 6 and split up the negative 8n. So it'll be negative 2n and negative 8n. And I will be bringing down my other terms, 3n squared and then the plus 4. Now I've got 4 terms. I've got 2 groups, so I can factor by grouping. My first group, the GCF of 3n squared and 2n, is just a normal n, or 1n. When I divide by 1n, I'm left with 3n minus 2. Then I bring down this negative, so that means the GCF of my next group is going to be negative. The biggest number that goes into 8 and 4 is a 4, but again, it's a negative 4 because the first term of this group was a negative. So negative 8n divided by negative 4 is positive 2n. And oh, wow, this is supposed to be a 6. Hold on, this is wrong. I was supposed to put a 6 from the table. I'm sure most of you probably already knew that I did that wrong and was questioning what the heck I was doing the whole time I was doing this. Sorry, that was supposed to be a 6 because I was splitting the 8 from the table, and my table told me to use negative 2 and negative 6. So the GCF of this group is actually a negative 2. The biggest number that goes into negative 6 and 4 is a negative 2. So negative 3n divided by negative 2 is negative 6n divided by negative 2 is positive 3n. And positive 4 divided by negative 2 is negative 2. So now these match. So I can factor that out. And I'm left with an answer of 3n minus 2 times n minus 2. All right, number 8. And we got 3 more after this one. A times c, so my a is 7, my c is negative 20. So 7 times negative 20 equals negative 140. So I need the numbers that multiply to negative 140, and we need to find the pair that adds up to that negative 31, because that's what we're trying to split up. So I'm going to go to my calculator and go y equals negative 140 divided by x. Second graph. So obviously I have 1 and negative 140. I have 2 and negative 70. So 1, negative 140, 2 and negative 70, 4 and negative 35, 5 and negative 28. So 4 and negative 35, 5 and negative 28. 7 and negative 20. 10 and negative 14. And then I see 14 and negative 10. So it's kind of like a repeat. It's just their opposite. So that means everything after this is going to be the same that I already have. It's just going to be the opposite signs. We don't need to write those all down unless we need to. So let's see if any of the ones we already have work. 1 plus negative 140 is negative 139. That's not even close. 2 plus negative 70, so in other words, 2 minus 70, that's negative 68. That's not it. 4 plus negative 35, so in other words, 4 minus 35, that is negative 31. So that's our pair right there, a positive 4 and a negative 35. So I'm going to switch this to a positive 4x and a negative 35x. And then I'm going to bring down my minus 20 and my 7x squared. And then I've got my 4 terms. I can do my 2 groups. So 7x squared plus 4x, the GCF. 7 and 4 don't share any factors except for a 1. So I can divide this by 1x, because they both share an x. So when I divide by 1x, I'm left with 7x plus 4. So those x's cancel. Then I bring down this minus, so my next GCF is a negative number. And the biggest number that goes into 35 and 20 is a 5. Remember, if you're not sure, you can use your calculator. The math num 9 trick, you would type in, I'll show you math num 9, and you would type in the numbers as positive. So 35 comma, what was it, 20? Yeah, 35 and 20, which gives you 5. So you can get the GCF that way as well. This one just has to be a negative 5 because this was negative. When I divide negative 35x by negative 5, I get positive 7x. And negative 20 divided by negative 5 is positive 4. And hey, look, they match. So I am left with 7x plus 4 and x minus 5, or 1x minus 5. All right, 2 more questions. Number 9, a times c. So a is 5 and c is negative 18. So 5 times negative 18 equals 5 times negative 18, that's equal to negative 90. So in my t-chart, I need to find the numbers that multiply to negative 90, and I'm going to end up circling the pair that adds to negative 1. This b term right here, there's an imaginary 1 there, so I need to split up a negative 1. So we are going to go to our calculators and do negative 90 divided by x. Negative 90 divided by x, second graph. I've got 1 in negative 90. That's definitely not going to give me a negative 1. 2 and negative 45. 2 minus 45 gives me negative 43. That's not negative 1. 3 and negative 30. 3 and negative 30, that gives me negative 27 when I add them, which is not negative 1. 5 and negative 18, that does not add to give me negative 1 either. Neither does 6 and negative, or I said 5 and negative 15, I meant negative 18. 6 and negative 15 does not give me negative 1 either. Then I get here. Because I need them to equal negative 1, I need the numbers to be next to each other, which makes sense. Now I have 9 and negative 10. 9 plus negative 10 is the same thing as 9 minus 10, which is negative 1. So that's it. It's the 9 and the negative 10. I'm not even going to write all the rest of them down. If you know it already, you don't have to write the rest of them down. I know it's 9 and negative 10. 9 times negative 10 is negative 90, and 9 plus negative 10 is negative 1. So I'm going to split this up using my 9 and my negative 10. So it's a positive 9p and a negative 10p. And then I'll bring down my minus 18, and I'll bring down my 5p squared. The GCF of this first group, well, 5 and 9 don't share any factors other than 1, so really it's just 1p that we're dividing by, which 5p squared divided by 1p is just 5p, and 9p divided by 1p is just 9. My second group has a GCF. It's going to be a negative number because I have that minus in between the groups, so I'm going to bring that down. The biggest number that 10 and 18 share is actually just 2. So I can divide these by negative 2. Negative 10p divided by negative 2 is a positive 5p. And negative 18 divided by negative 2 is a positive 9. Leaving me with 5p plus 9 and 1p, or just p minus 2. And our last question, Number 10, A times C. Well, A is 9 and C is negative 10. 9 times negative 10, that's the same thing as the last question. It's negative 90. This time I need the numbers that multiply to negative 90 that are going to add to negative 5, because this time my B is negative 5. So I'm going to go back to my calculator. I know it was 1 and negative 90, 2 and negative 45, 3 and negative 30, if I'm remembering. Let's go back. What else did we have? 5 and negative 18, 6 and negative 15. None of these give me negative 5 when I add them together yet. So this is negative 89 when I add them. This is negative 43. This is negative 27. This is negative 13. So none of these are right so far. This is negative 9, so that's not right either. So I gotta keep looking. Let's see. I already know 9 and the 10 give me negative 1. 10 minus 9 is positive 1. I'm not, oh, here we go, right here. 18. Oh no, that gives me, I don't see anything. Is there nothing that gives me negative 5? I don't know if I'm missing something or if this just really isn't factorable. I just did so many questions that my brain doesn't want to stop to think about it. So I'm pretty sure that means that this is not factorable, because there are no pairs that give me negative 5. So we're just going to go with not factorable. If you're at home and you can figure that out, you can let me know. I'm very sleepy and not feeling like investigating that any longer. I don't have my answer key with me either. So, well, that's it. We did notes 0.5. You can now do homework number 0.5.